How's it going, guys? Welcome back to TheBlueShifting. Welcome back to the House of Fata Morgana Requiem. Well, not Requiem for Innocence. Reincarnation, which is in Dreams of Revenant Dreams, which is kind of like this weird combination of Requiem for Innocence and Reincarnation. Like pretty much everything that was in Requiem for Dreams, which we already covered, was actually included in this, and it's also got the base cage. So technically, this is everything. But anyway, enough about that. Welcome back. I'm glad to be able to be here. So last time we were doing stuff, Nelly is having a rough time because now her estranged brother has now moved back in with her. Dearest Mell, it kind of sucks, you know, like that they maintained their sibling status, but she also maintained her love and affection for him. But we're gonna see. We'll see how this all plays out. So far, it's being okay. But with the parents gone, I think we're gonna see things come to a head here. So, yeah. Mell did have a dream, though, where he had like an echo of his time at the mansion and the whispers of the witch and Nellie's like protests. And it kind of threw things into sharp relief because while she did go a little bananas, like it's kind of showcasing here of Mell. He's very much a fake. Like he kind of puts on a persona, but he really just can't wait to move on and be on his own. I still think that he's going to have a resentment towards Nelly because I do think that his dad and that he and his dad lived on like almost poverty because most of their dad's money was just sent to Nelly and his mom. Anyway, we're at breakfast time. Let's just get started. There's not much else to say. Let's just see what happens. Hope you guys enjoy. So, not sure this is a breakfast, more like a diabetes on a plate. It was anything but fine. I'd stumbled into the living room, still half asleep, but when I saw what was spread out on the table, I jolted awake in an instant. Nelly stood in front of it, her arms spread wide as a giant grin on her face. Some kind of freshly baked pastry drenched in chocolate, decorated with whipped cream and sprinkles. Oh gosh. Okay, I mean, it sounds okay, but honestly, I think sprinkles, I mean, they don't have a taste. They're just crunchy and weird. I don't know. I think they can look aesthetically pleasing, but unless they really add something like dramatic, I just think it just is garish. And inexplicably, with a candle sticking out of each one. Is it a birthday? My mind would have preferred to believe this a continuation of my nightmare, rather than accepting the dizzying saccharine fog hanging. Is that supposed to be like sucrose? Like saccharine, like a sugar fog hanging in the living room as a reality.
もうねやけそんなおじいちゃんみたいなこと言わないで食べてみたら絶対気に入るからほら
Oh boy.
食べるって食べるけどあんはやめてほしいな一緒にいるのは楽しいけどさすがにこのままの食生活だと身が持たない
Oh, Mell. Ever so slowly, I carried a fork full into my mouth and was practically knocked cold by the onslaught of sugary violence. It was so intense, I wanted to munch on a salt lick just to counter the sweetness. After forcing myself through one chocolate death cake, Nelly giddily announced that I was welcome to as many more as I wanted. I politely turned her down. He's like, I gotta get out of here.
それで今日は何をして遊ぶ?
Work, baby? Nelly looked up at me with a glimmer in her eyes. It was Sunday. We had nothing scheduled for the day.
そうだな外に出かけた方がいいかもね
昨日はずっとドラマを見てたものねじゃあどこに行く動物園遊園地
スーパーに行って食材と日用品を買ってこよういい加減料理もしていかないとあと家事もしよ
う He's so earnest
何それ地味ママ不在の優雅な一週間にふさわしくないわだいたいご飯なら毎日宅配ピザでいいじゃない
We're gonna die. And plus, like, once you get used to eating good food, you don't want to go back very much. I mean, okay, occasional treats are still really tough for me to say no to, but like, good grief, I feel ill if I eat too much crunk.
一週間後には洋服が入らなくなっているかもね
Oh.
それでもいいのかい
それはわかったわじゃあスーパーに行きましょうでもその後は遊びに行くのよね
その後は宿題をしようネリー明日は学校だよ土日分の宿題が出ているはずだけど何もやっていないだろう
I mean...
でもせっかくお引っ越ししてきたばかりなのに こういう時くらいサボったって罰は当たらないわ。
He's like, I don't want to do that.
それはダメ。宿題はちゃんとやらないと。じゃないと、次のお休みが来ても一緒に遊ばないよ。
Oh, there he goes. He's gonna force her to be good.
メルは意地悪だわ。
こうしていると、ずいぶん小さな妹と接しているような気持ちになるな。3つしか離れていないのが嘘みたいだ。
Yeah, but she was an only child up till now. I mean, he was too, but she was a spoiled only child up till now.
じゃあ、ネリーに宿題を教えて。それならお勉強するわ。
それならもちろん。よし、じゃあ支度をして出かけようか。
With our plan finally hammered out, we headed out to a nearby grocery store. As we perused the store, I had to fend off Nellie trying to throw every kind of junk food imaginable into the cart. And even when she chose items we did need, she always seemed to select the most expensive variety. I wished she knew to be more conscientious of the fact that we had a budget to maintain. When I asked if this was how she always shopped, she said no, today was a special occasion. Apparently, she wanted a taste of Noble's lifestyle, which got a stiff chuckle out of me when she said it. Somehow, I don't think actual nobles spend much time in a grocery store. And formalities aside, she had essentially lived like nobility her whole life, wanted for nothing. Every time she said or did something oblivious to the concept of money, it was like a punch in my gut. But I did my best to feign my amusement, just laughing along with her. Yeah, he's inadvertently going to be real bitter to her. Like, I don't think he intends to, but like, with her being so obviously like unconcerned with financial matters when he spent his entire like childhood and teenage years like desperately trying to like scrimp and save, she inadvertently is driving him further away from her. It's gonna be rough. When we returned home, we split the chores between the two of us. Nellie, however, didn't seem that much experience doing work around the house. I had to step in to stop her from putting away too much detergent in the washing machine, and then again from mixing chemicals that would create noxious gas when combined. I remember when my mom had to do that with me when I was a kid growing up. Namely, the Comet bleach powder that you use to clean the tub, and the regular like heavy-duty bathroom cleaner for like the toilet and sink. You mix those together, they can make a nice fun chlorine aerosol, which is just lovely for your brain cells. All in all, it was a minor disaster, and I ended up doing more work than if I'd handled it all by myself. But the excitement was also strangely enjoyable. And she did listen attentively when I told her that she was doing wrong. Before her mom left, and she was heading out the door, she leaned in and whispered to me, "I hope Nellie's not too much of a handful. She can be very considerate and a bit of a brat sometimes." And while she was indeed a bit self-absorbed, Nellie was a pleasant ball of joy most of the time. Maybe she was only bratty to her mother. It wasn't hard to imagine Nellie pushing back against every little thing if her mother was constantly in her hair, which was the impression I had of them. That degree of attention was proof of how much she loved her daughter. But a girl Nellie's age might not see it the same way. I was able to make that observation because I didn't have the nagging parent in my life, and the one I had been, and the one I had being a guy might have contributed as well. Though he always felt less like a parent and more a roommate. So like his dad didn't really pay much attention to him and probably fretted about just work and just freaking out and like supporting his mom and sister. So yeah, that could be really rough. Which I guess was because he usually seemed more concerned about his ex-wife than me. In fact, I frequently got the impression he was just using my presence as a way to convince her to let him see her again. Dad did also make an effort to raise me the best he could, so I wasn't going to accuse him of neglect or anything. But there was still a constant sense that I was not very high on his, or anyone's, priority list. For Dad, his ex-wife was the most important person in his life. For her, my mom, Nellie was. Which left no one to have me at the top of their list, except for Nellie, but he doesn't know that. Nellie's face flashed through my mind. Did I think she would be willing to love me most? That was a lot to hope for of a sister who barely knew me.
めにも糖分が必要だわ。
Oh, Nelly.
まだ勉強を始めてから30分も経ってないよ、ネリー。それに、朝あんなに糖分を取ったのに、まだ取る気なんだ。
甘いものは常に別腹なのよ。お菓子を食べ過ぎるとママが怒るんだけど、見つからないようにお部屋にも隠しているの。
Nelly, that's not right. Nelly riffled through her desk drawer, pulling out a tin of cookies. I was impressed she didn't put on more weight with how much she snacked. Or maybe she was small because snacking was all she did. Either way, it was my first time in Nelly's room. There were a lot to take in. More stuffed animals than I could count, photos of musicians plastered the walls, stacks of CDs, a stockpile of makeup, books.
あの本って、今度ドラマになる原作だよね。クラスでも女子が騒いでたな。もう読んだの？
もちろん読んだわ。だって超流行ってるのよ。話を知っておかないと話題に入れないじゃない。
そうなんだ。女の子はいろいろと大変だね。それで、どんな話だったの？
She'd be like, I don't really know.
ティーンエイジャーの群像劇なのよ。みんなリアルな悩みを抱えてて、わかるって感じなの。
It's funny, with that description, it's absolutely super vague, but it immediately makes me think of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which was my, like, super relatable high school, like, story. Like, that show is still one of my favorites.
それでね、ネリーが応援している女の子は、最新刊で衝撃の真実が明らかになったのよ。実はその子が好きな相手はね、血が繋がってて。
Uh-oh.
どうしたの？ネリー。
なんでもないわ。ちょっと思うところがあっただけで。
そう。でも、その子は大変だね。他の要因だったらどうにかなりそうだけど、血が繋がってたら諦めるしかないよ。
本
当に諦めるしかないのかしら。例えば、二人のことを知らないところに駆け落ちしちゃうとか。
Nelly, that's dangerous thinking.
そんなの現実的じゃないだろ。誰も知らないところへ行ったとしても、血のつながりは変えようがないんだし。
Yeah, there's genetic problems galore with that.
フィクションの中ならなんとかなるかもしれないけどね。めでたしめでたしで強引にエンディングにしちゃってさ。でも、現実の世界はその後も人生が続くんだ。めでたしでおしまいになんかできない。社会の中で幸せに生きていきたいのなら、別の人を探した方がいいに決まっている。でもほら、そのドラマは作り物だしさ、くっついてハッピーエンドにしちゃってもありなんじゃないかな。
Stop twisting the dagger!
そうね。ドラマなら、そうできるかもしれないわね。
まさかと思うけど、ネリーは僕のことを。
No, you're not overthinking it. You're exactly right. I consider myself fairly inept at reading people, but Nelly was so blatant about it, even someone as dense as me could pick up on the signals.
いや、まさかね。兄弟なんだぞ。それこそありえないし、ネリーだってそれくらい分かっているはず。僕の思い込みだ。そうに違いない。
This is exactly my problem in high school. It was not that I didn't see the signs. I think this is true for a lot of guys. I bet you it's the same for girls too, but I can't really know that for sure. All I know is that from my perspective and like from what I've observed of other people, but specifically my perspective, you can have a girl and she can be sending you signals. And the thing is it's not that we're dumb and don't see the signals. It's that we say, is she like hitting on me? Does she like me? But then you think, okay, maybe she does. But what if I'm wrong? That would be disastrous if I tried to make a move and something went horrifically wrong. And then there's also like the nerves, which just reinforce that fear. So you get nervous, plus the fear, a legitimate fear of misinterpreting signals and not understanding what's actually happening, constantly running in the back of your mind, makes you hesitant to take that step because you don't want to like embarrass yourself. You don't want to like throw your friendship into chaos. You don't want to like step on other people's toes if there's somebody else you know who likes that person. That's a huge constant problem that can come up, is like when you know someone, like a friend of yours is crushing on somebody and then they start sending you signals. That could be a mess. It is a mess. That happened to me once. It's rough. So Girls, if they're like the one girl who watches this, whoever in the future, I don't know who you are, but whoever you are, if a guy isn't picking up on your signals, chances are he's not dense and just not picking up on your signals. He probably is just not sure if he's confident enough to take that step. Not that he wouldn't. I'd say most guys are willing to take that step, but like, there's just so much riding on it. Like, you almost need to be like in a state where like you're willing to throw caution to the winds. For some people that can be a little bit of alcohol, obviously a socially responsible amount. For some people it's just the proper setting. That's usually for me. Like, it has to be the right time, right place, and kind of has to be in a moment of courage that overcomes the anxiety. And then sometimes it's just really good for the girl to be able to make that first move. I mean, I think that's super attractive when the girl makes the first move, or when she's forward about things. I'd like even like the characters that I tend to like in these games, if you've ever noticed, like I have a tendency to like the girls who are very much no nonsense, under their own power, have their own drive and ambitions, and are take charge kind of people. Like, that's because that's who I actually really tend to fall for in real life. So yeah. It's really beneficial for a lot of guys if a girl could be like forward. Like, you can be girly and forward. You don't have to be girly either. Like, that's definitely not an issue. But if you're worried that being forward isn't ladylike, don't worry. I really doubt that that's ever going to be a problem for a guy. And if it is, I don't know what his problem is. You're making it so that he can feel safe trying to make a move. If you can at least like break that initial barrier and just like let him know that it's okay, that you are interested. If you can just give him that little nudge, I'm sure that the guy that you would be interested in would be very likely to take that step. Now, granted, it works the other way around. Maybe he's not actually into you, but, you know, I think you're a lot less likely to disrupt a friendship if the girl takes the first move, as long as she doesn't go, you know, nice girl on him. Anyway, moving on. I could only see Nellie as a sister, nothing more. It was true I had taken a minor interest in her before we properly met, but that was only because, as I told her, I felt as though we'd met somewhere before. Which, in retrospect, was probably because I subconsciously recognized her as family. I was curious about her because she was my sister. But what about her? Nellie had no memory of me at all. She was still a baby when our parents split up, so she couldn't possibly have recognized me, even unconsciously. It would be harder for her to recategorize me from boy she knows to older brother. Could my moving in feel to her like any other older guy suddenly intruding on her space? Regardless of how it felt, though, we were still siblings. Nothing could sever the blood that bound us. So even if she did, by some impossible chance, have non-sisterly feelings for me now, they would surely fade in time. At worst, it would be nothing more than a fleeting adoration. She would sort through whatever she was feeling soon enough, and that would be the end of that. There were billions of other men in the world, after all. Regardless, it would probably be smart to keep some distance until that happened. At first, I had thought it best to try and break the ice as quickly as possible, since we'd be family our whole lives, but there was definitely a possibility that doing so would only make things worse. Obviously, though, it'd be preferable if I were overthinking the whole thing.
Nelly, 宿題に戻ろうか。一区切りついたら僕も部屋に戻るよ。自分の宿題は落ち着いて取り掛かりたいしね。
ここで宿題をすればいいじゃない。ネリーだってそんなにうるさくしないわ。
周りに誰かがいると集中しにくいんだ。ごめん、悪気はないんだよ。納得してくれるといいんだけど。
わかったわ。そうね、高学年のお勉強はネリーのとは違うものね。
That is the nature of progress in school.
今日は邪魔しないようにするわ。でも、お夕飯は一緒に食べましょう。
そうだね。
This is gonna be so crappy. No, I really feel bad for them already. We spent most of the day in our own rooms, a drastic departure from yesterday. I felt kind of bad about lying to Nellie, knowing how excited she was to have me around. But what I'd said about not being able to concentrate with other people around was just an excuse to get some alone time. Then again, having a little space was probably normal for kids our age. Certainly more so than being attached at the hip. And if Nellie's feelings for me did extend beyond simple familiar love, then I wanted to keep a nice, safe distance. That was just something I wasn't equipped to deal with. At least he is acknowledging it's possible rather than just completely brushing it off. A question fluttered through my mind. What did I feel about her? She was a sweet girl, there was no denying that. I was glad to have her as my sister, that was true as well. And frankly, I enjoyed the affection, which was why I wanted to stay squarely in the brother-sister category. The question was that everything? Was there nothing else to my feelings for her? Deep down in my gut, something told me that wasn't the case. That there was some crucial piece missing, like a vow of some sort. But what could it be? When could I have made a vow to her? At what point in my life was there even room for such a significant exchange to have taken place? None as far as I was aware. What was that vow again? I can't remember. To always be by her side and take care of her. The next day we had school. We took the same bus from home and then split up part way. But that didn't stop her from texting me like crazy. Must have had to pull my phone out between every single class. Because by the end of the day, I'd lost track of how many people had asked if I'd gotten a girlfriend. Hopefully, that would also settle down over time. I wondered how she would have been if our parents hadn't split up. If we'd grown up together, would she be any less clingy? Although, it might have been a lot more reasonable if she had always seen him as a brother. Even though she likely would still have this, brother complex, it would probably be much better tempered. Would she hate me like other girls her age hated their older brothers? Had we just not been together long enough for her to find anything she disliked about me yet? But something told me she wouldn't be any different, even without those 14 years apart. Was I letting the attention get to my head, though? Or was that just what I wanted to believe? That there was someone who would love me unconditionally, and that it would be a pure, familiar kind of love, with none of the meanness inherited in the romantic kind. Messiness inherent to the romantic kind. Was I just trying to project a fairy tale ideal onto my sister? Because if that was what I was doing, then I really was the worst kind of human scum. It would mean I wanted her affection, but only if it was safe and utterly detached from the person giving it. No bueno, man. Oh, Nelly. It was a Friday night, almost a week since Mell had moved in. Mom and Mel's dad would be coming back from their vacation tomorrow, meaning this was the last night I would have alone with him. So, if possible, I wanted to spend as much of it as I could with him. But he'd been strangely distant these past few days. He wasn't being mean to me or anything, and we still made and ate supper together all week, and it was lots of fun and all, but it wasn't enough. I wanted to spend all day with him like we did the first day here. Was that asking too much? Was I being too clingy and scared him off? Or was this how siblings are supposed to be? Today, like every other day this week, we had supper together and then spent the rest of the evening isolated in our rooms. Most nights I was able to enjoy myself alone just fine, but emptiness won out tonight. Watching videos on my phone, reading the latest big hit book, listening to my favorite album. I tried everything, but none of it was any fun. Oh, Nelly.
ちょっと、様子を見に行こうかしら。お茶でもしましょうって気軽に話しかけるの。重たい感じにしないで、なんでもない風に。それくらいなら、きっと大丈夫よね。
I'd done my best all week not to be overly clingy with him. So I'd pretty much earned this last night together, hadn't I? Oh boy. Oh. What the?
あら？話し声？誰かと電話しているのかしら。
1年間は家族ごっこに付き合う。でも、18になったら出ていくって気持ちは変わらないよ。
Who is he talking to?
わがまま？勝手なのは父さんたちだろ？全部言うこと聞いてきたんだ。こっちの言い分だって通してくれ。大体。
Oh no.
ねえ、メル。今の、本当せっかく一緒に暮らせるようになったのに、それに、家族ごっこって。
Oh gosh!
ネリー？ちょっと待って。父さん、電話を切るよ。困ったな。よりによってこんな話を聞かれるなんて。聞き耳を立てるのは良くないよ。
Oh boy.
それは悪いと思っているわ。でも、 あんな言葉が聞こえてきたら。ねえ、どういうことなの？メール、答えて。
別に、大したことじゃないよ。ネリーと同じさ。君だって最初はいきなり家族だなんて言われて戸惑っていただろ。
でも、メルはあの時前向きだったじゃない。嫌だったんなら、あの時にネリーと一緒に文句を言えばよかったわ。
再婚自体は嫌じゃない。むしろ、それを願っていたんだ。1年後には大学への進学が決まってるっていうのに、その時にバタバタされたら大変だしさ。
Right.
だったら、なんで家族ごっこなんて言ったの？メルの考えていることがちっともわからないわ。
わからない？むしろ普通に考えたら誰でもわかることだと思うけど、それとも君にはわからないのかな。
Uh-oh.
何不自由なく生活してきたんだろうしね。
Uh-oh. Uh-oh, here it comes.
なんでそんな言い方。メルらしくないわ。そんな風にトゲのある言い方をするなんて。
Oh, he's very human.
僕らしくない？そんなことないよ。僕は結構卑屈だし、嫌なことも言うやつなんだ。君に見せてこなかっただけ。
Oh no. Oh gosh.
だいたい1週間程度で僕の何がわかるって言うんだ。それは君のこともそうだけどさ。君は今まで疑問に思ってこなかったの？この広い家のローンは誰が払っているんだろうとか、生活費はどこから出ているんだろうとか。
Wait, was it him?
君はお小遣いで好きなものを買えるし、旅行にも行けるよね。でもそのお金って、君のお母さんの仕事だけじゃ賄えない金額だと。まあ、お金のことなんて生活が大変じゃなければ考えないか。つまり、全部父さんが養育費として払っていたんだよ。
Oh boy.
もうこの際だからはっきり言うよ。この家に戻ってきて最初に思ったのは、随分余裕のある暮らしをしているんだなってことだった。僕らが質素な生活をしている分、君や君のお母さんが楽に暮らしていたのだと思うと、苦い思いがしたよ。腹が立つって言い換えてもいいかも。あんなにニコニコ笑って接しておきながら、裏ではこんなことを考えてたんだよ。
I think it's good he's being honest here, but oh!
だいたい母さんに関して言えば僕の母でもあるのに、なんで？
Abandoned me.
ごめんなさい。ネリー、全然、そういうことに頭が回ってなくて。
It's not your fault.
本当に、ごめんなさい。
いや、違う。君が謝ることは一切ないんだ。君に非はないんだもの。わかっているんだよ。さっきのは、君に当たっただけ。僕こそごめん。君まで辛い生活を強いられていたら、そっちの方が嫌だからね。
Man, though, it still sucks!
でも、そういうことだから、この家に長居したくないんだよ。複雑な気持ちになるんだ。君のお母さんと僕の父さんを見ているとね。
でも、メルの気持ちは分かったけど、ネリーはやっぱり、ここにいてほしいって思うわ。だって、ネリーにとっては、メルが一番大事なんだもの。そばにいてほしいわ。
一番大事って、一緒に暮らしたのはたった1週間じゃないか。君の一番って随分簡単に出来上がるんだね。
Oh gosh.
そんなこと簡単なんかじゃないわ。だってネリーはずっと。
僕のことを大切に思ってくれているのは嬉しいけど、君の気持ちも一過性のものだよ。1年も経てばおのずと君の方から出て行ってほしいって思うようになる。僕がいることで今までの生活も保てなくなるかもしれないし。
そんなことな 服もお菓子も何もいらないわ。お兄様だけがネリーに必要なの。
Wow. Fetch, what do you do with that, Mell?
お兄様って、そんな呼び方、今までしてこなかったのに。しかも、随分と時代錯誤だね。
今のは、つい口を出てしまったの。ネリーにもよくわかんない。
Think of the
変な
dream.
子って思わないで。
Think of the dream, Mell. Remember who you are.
変な子って思うよ。あ、ごめん。ちょっと笑っちゃった。ドラマか演劇みたいな呼び方だけど、なんでだろう。なんだか、懐かしい気がしたな。僕も変だね。でも、おかげで気がほぐれた。
Even if you're cooled down, though, it's not gonna undo this. We've crossed the line here.
あのね、ネリー。もっと本音を言えば、君のこと、嫌な子だったらよかったのにって思っている。
どういうこと？
そうしたら、気兼ねなく君のことを突き放して、ここを出ていけるから。ほら、嫌な奴だろ。話はこれでおしまい。嫌な思いをさせてしまってごめんね。
You just can't do that.
今日はもう寝よう。明日は父さんたちが帰ってくるし、笑顔で迎えてやらないと。
Oh, gosh.
大丈夫だよ。一年の間は波風立てないように、きちんと家族を演じるからさ。おやすみ、ネリー。もう部屋に戻って。
おやすみなさい、メル。
Oh, Fetch. Dang it, Mell. There's no good answer here, but dang it. I still feel like he's in the wrong.
ネリーだけが勝手に浮かれていたのね。確かに、ちゃんと考えてみたら、ネリーは片親なのに裕福な方だったわ。メルはアルバイトもしているし、あの時の旅行だって偶然チケットが手に入ったからだった。
Yeah.
家事だってネリーよりずっとできていたわ。
あのね、ネリー。もっと本音を言えば、君のこと、嫌な子だったらよかったのにって思っている。そうしたら、気兼ねなく君のことを突き放して、ここを出ていけるから。ほら、嫌な奴だろ。
メルは、ネリーのことを嫌いたいのかしら。そうすれば、
Oh,
彼は
no.
楽に出ていけるようになるのかしら。
Don't do it, Nelly.
でも、ネリーは、メルのことがやっぱり好きよ。嫌われるような振る舞いはできないわ。彼のことを好きなまま、嫌われるような振る舞いも
No.
あるわ。たった一つだけ。
Oh. Oh, don't you dare. Is she gonna repeat what she did? No. No, don't sneak into his room. Don't do it. A hazy feeling lurked deep down. That a very long time ago, I'd been driven to do something unthinkable. Not caring whether or not it made them hate me, whether or not it destroyed everything I had, and what's stopping me from doing the same now? It was doomed from the beginning. Nothing could make us not family. Nothing could stop him from leaving. And trying to keep my love bottled up was only going to make me miserable. He thought we'd only been together for a week, that my feelings for him were fleeting. That couldn't be further from the truth. I had my eye on him forever. And maybe this made me sound like I watched too much TV. But I was certain that if we had been together in a previous life, I would have loved him then too. No ifs. If we were, and I did, I was positive. And that was the only way to explain why I loved him so dearly now. Nothing else made sense. Oh gosh. Oh gosh. No! Don't do it! Late that night, I snuck into Mel's room. I could see his chest gently moving up and down as he slept. You two, turn away. Don't judge me! Oh no, don't judge her! Oh gosh! Which reminded me, earlier in the week he'd been boasting about how deep a sleeper he was. I was kind of jealous. I had trouble sleeping anytime I had something on my mind. So tonight was a lost cause no matter how it went.
ねえ、メル。好きよ。とっても。だから、もう少し起きないでいて。
I prayed for this dream to last just a little bit longer. Even a few short minutes with Mel's mind would be enough. I would savor every last moment I could get. Because when he woke, the spell would break, and everything would come crashing down.
Nani? なんか、くすぐったい。
Oh gosh.
ネリー！何をしているんだ！今、もしかして僕の口に。
そう。キスをしたのよ。メル。ねえ、メル。もしかしたら、あなたも気づいていたのかもしれないけど。
Oh, gosh. Last time this was just pure horrifying. This time it's heartbreaking.
ネリーは、あなたのことが好きよ。兄としてじゃなくて、男の人として好きなの。
なんで、そんなことを、今、言うんだ。
家族ごっこをするくらいなら、いっそ壊してしまった方がいいと思ったからよ。この気持ちを隠しながら家族として生活するのだって辛いのに、メルは家族でもなく、ごっこだって言ったわ。
Oh gosh.
そんなの、ネリーにとって辛すぎる。思いを受け取ってもらえないどころか、家族としての絆もかりそめだなんて。だから今言うのよ。ネリーは、あなたが好きだって。
言っている意味、分かっているのか？僕たちは、間違いなく血が繋がっているんだぞ。兄弟同士でこんなこと。
そんなの分かりきっているわ。分かった上で迫っているのよ。こんなことをしたら、かりそめの家族としても成り立たなくなるって。
Tough fetch.
それでも止められなかったの。一過性なんかじゃない。簡単な気持ちなんかじゃない。このまま死んでもいいくらいの強い気持ちなの。それくらいメルのことが好きなの。ずっと前から。なのにどうして兄弟なのよ。どうしてネリーは幸せになれないのよ。
ネリー、でも、僕は。
ねえ、メル。今、ネリーが望んでいるのは、
Oh
二
gosh.
つだけよ。
Oh.
ネリーの気持ちを受け入れてくれるか。もう二度と、あなたを好きにならないように。手ひどく、拒絶して。
What the fetch do you do? I have no idea what I would do. I don't know if I could do number 2, and I don't think I could do number 1.
お願い、メル。選んで。
Fetch, man.
僕は。ごめん。どっちも、選べない。
Oh dear. Oh no. Somewhere, some part of me knew that was what he would say. He was too kind-hearted to force himself to be cruel to me. And obviously he could have never accepted my love either. But I could see in his eyes that there was more to his words. A distinct fear he was trying his best to conceal, or perhaps it was closer to disgust. This was no surprise to me either. He only saw me as a sister, so of course my love would gross him out. Even if he didn't have any attachment to this family itself. It would never be potential love interest for him. Any normal person would be turned off immediately by an advance from a family member. I knew how he would react before I stepped through the door. That was the goal. I was here to destroy everything. That would be better than keeping him so close but forever out of reach. I knew what the consequences would be. But Knowing and experiencing are two very different things. Seeing his eyes grow wide in surprise, his lips contort with disgust, was like 1,000 knives to my heart. It hurt. My heart was in agony. Blood seeped from the countless gaping wounds. My whole heart spilled forth, and I could do nothing to hold it back. Tears spilled forth, and I could do nothing to hold them back.
Nelly! 待って！
分かっていたことじゃない。こうなるって泣くことなんてないじゃない。望んだ結末だったはずよ。こうするためだったはずよ。なのにどうしてこんなに苦しいのよ。
Nelly. It all happened so quickly I didn't have time to process it. Cold sweat streamed down my back. One thing was clear though, even through the heavy fog in my mind, I had made a terrible mistake. I was stupid of me to tell her I couldn't pick either option. I should have chosen one or the other. But I still don't know which was the right answer. I mean, obviously I couldn't accept her love. So did that mean I should have cruelly rejected her instead? Kicked her to the ground and called her every horrible name I could think of? I could never.
バラの時代では気持ち悪いって言って遠ざけたんですよね。
Could I really never bring myself to do that? I mean, I was hardly a saint. If she had gone just a bit further, probably would have lashed back in a really ugly way. The biggest reason I hadn't was because I didn't want to make myself into the bad guy.
結局、僕は僕のことしか考えていない。ネリ、あいつを追わないと。
I tried to get up out of bed, but my legs had turned to jelly. How pathetic. I had nothing to be afraid of, yet here I was, unable to move. Panic slowly welled in my gut, crawling up into my chest, my throat, my skull. What would I even say if I caught up to her? What did I want to tell her? The coward inside me whispered, just let her be. I was only going to be living here for a year anyway. This way I could leave with no attachments, no regrets. This way she could give up on me for good, keep her distance. It would be best for both of us. It would be easiest for both of us. That was what had motivated her as well, wasn't it? Yes, staying put would be easier in the long run. It would mean no more uncomfortable conflicts. And the door, it was just so far away. There was no one who could go and bring her back, not anymore. I didn't even know what I was supposed to say if I did. So why bother? Just... Oh! Someone's voice rang out. No, not someone's. I knew that voice very well, because it was my own. The shout rang strong in my mind, cutting through the thick fog that it was my hesitation. The boy who had made a vow shouted with all his might, shoving aside the coward who chose to close his eyes. Don't turn your back, Mell. Stop running from your problems. However mundane your life may be, you will at some point come against a life-changing decision, and it may seem like an insurmountable wall to you. But no matter how difficult it is to make a choice, turning your back on it is the one choice you must never make. And you swore you never would, that you would be stronger, to the man who offered your redemption. I had no memory of that, any of it. As somewhere deep within me, my soul, if you could call it that, was crying furiously at myself. You must never forget that vow. Right, that's right. I made a vow to him. I swore it of my very soul.
Nelly!
Go, Mell, go! I don't know what you're gonna do, but do it! Holy crap. I made a mad dash from my room, not even bothering to change into real clothes. My legs were still a trembling mess and my head empty as ever. I had no plan, nothing prepared to say to her. But there was no time to think about that. All I could do was go after her. I had made the wrong decision once, but there was still time to turn back onto the right course. And if I waited any longer, I would miss that chance too.
どうして追って。
ネリー、僕、うまく言葉が思いつかないんだけど、君に言わなきゃいけないことがあって。
What is he gonna say?
きちんと伝えられるかわからないけど、僕の気持ちや思っていることも。もう
いいのよ、メル。気持ちなんてわかってるわ。ネリーのことを嫌がる気持ちがちゃんと伝わったもの。拒絶と同じくらいきちんと伝わってきたわ。
違う、そうじゃないんだ。お願いだよ、ネリー。話を聞いてほしい。君が自分のことを晒し出してくれたんだから、僕もちゃんと見せなきゃいけないって思ったんだ。
Okay. Do it. Do it.
僕は、本当は、君に好かれるような人間じゃないんだ。僕が君を嫌うんじゃなくて、本当は逆なんだ。さっきだって、自分が傷つきたくないからって、星に走ったんだ。僕がいつも笑っているのは、嫌な目に遭いたくないからで、優しいからじゃない。
Dang.
そんなことないわ。メルはいつも優しくしてくれるし、すごくいい人よ。王子様みたいに。
本当に王子様なら、ネリーを泣かせることもなかっただろうし、君をすぐに追いかけたはずだよ。僕は弱い人間なんだ。いつも人の目を気にしている。他人にいいように思われたいと考えている。
Yeah.
君に好かれているのだって、本当は気分が良かった。でも、兄弟で関係を持つなんて、社会的にありえないから、怖かったんだ。
Well, that's for good reason, but keep going, keep going.
だから、君に好かれながらも、それが僕にとって害のない家族愛にとどまってほしいと思っていた。君の気持ちなんて、これっぽっちも考えていない。自分のことばかりなんだ。君と正面からぶつかり合うのだって恐ろしくて、追いかけるのに時間がかかってしまった。
そんなに恐ろしかったのに、ネリーを追いかけたのは。
I made a promise. Some past life.
僕は、自分の弱さを克服したいと思っているんだ。だって、誰ともぶつかり合わないような、何事もない人生なんてありえないんだから。現に今、僕たちは大きな岐路に立っている。ここで選択を間違えたままだと、取り返しのつかないことになると思ったんだ。
I mean, he's right.
また、君を失ってしまうと思ったんだ。うまく説明できないんだけど、君を失おうとしているのは、これが初めてじゃないように感じるんだ。
But what do you do?
ネリー、僕の言葉なんて信用ないかもしれないけど、僕は君のことを大事に思っているんだ。いや、もっと正確に言うなら、大事に思うようになったんだ。
That's a bit more honest.
君が僕のことを大切に思ってくれていると、痛いほどよくわかった。僕だってその気持ちを信じたいし、大事にしたい。でもそれは、君が抱くような恋愛感情じゃなくて、家族に対する大切な気持ちなんだよ。
This is probably the right answer.
家族ごっこなんて言ったのに。
そうだね。そう言ってしまった。でもそれは、本当の気持ちじゃない。だって、ごっこだって思っておけば、誰からも愛されなくたって、家族のふりをしていられるだろう。
There we go. There we go. I'm liking this.
傷つくのが怖いから、ぶつかり合うのが怖いから、最初から偽物にしてしまったんだ。ほら、僕はすごく卑怯な人間だ。王子なんかじゃないんだよ。そんな立派なものじゃない。いつも逃げることばかり考えて、自分に甘い方向にばっかり向いているんだ。でも、それを変えていきたいと思っているし、
Yeah.
僕がそんな人間だと知っても、家族でいてほしいんだ。
I remember I spent a lot of my youth, also kind of like Mell. I just wanted to have a peaceable life. I didn't want to rock boats. I didn't want to cause trouble. I didn't want to have enemies. I just wanted to be left alone and kept in peace. But I remember hearing a saying that I had trouble swallowing back in the past, but I've learned to accept that if you've never made any enemies, you've never made a difference. It sounds kind of harsh, but it's really true. Like, if you've never stepped into that zone and like really pushed the envelope and like been willing to be contrary to what you hear and what you see, then you haven't done anything of note. You haven't done anything worthwhile, because if you say your mind and you have an opinion, you're going to make some people angry. If you take a stance, there are people who are going to disagree. If you have beliefs, if you have convictions, if you have passions, there are going to be those who are going to mock, deride, or belittle you for them. It's just the nature of the world. And to expect to be able to ghost through it without coming into conflict is to want to be a ghost, a shadow, to never have an impact, to never be memorable, to never do anything. You don't have to be nasty. You shouldn't be a Karen or, a nice guy or a nice girl or whatever, a nice person. Like, you don't have to try and tote the tote and walk the walk and suppress like your feelings and ideas, or feel like if people don't agree with your ideas, they're just being haters. It's a lot more complicated than that. But it is good for people to be able to share their thoughts and feelings, to be willing to accept criticism. It's one of the best things about this channel. I haven't had a whole lot of criticism or conflict or issues with people, but people sometimes do. I've had the hateful comments. Thankfully, they're few and far between, but they're there. They bother me. It hurts when people leave that kind of stuff. But I'd rather have that to deal with and still be making this content than to lean so much into that pain and frustration and bitterness that I feel when I read comments like that, and let it get to me and change the way I want to do content on this channel. I'm probably not doing this channel properly. There's probably stuff I could do to make it more successful, and I want to try and learn how to do that, but I don't want to compromise what I love. I don't want to compromise the kind of content I make. I want to make content that makes me excited. I want to live a life that I can be happy with. And I think that's all we have to try and do, right? And the great mistakes is when we, out of fear, avoid those critical moments when we have to make those choices that'll make or break us. Because nothing hurts more than walking away and realizing later down the road that you could have fought for something, that you could have done something more to at least been able to get your thoughts across. Those are my biggest regrets, are the ones where I just avoided confrontation and let it go, rather than fighting, rather than digging in my heels, rather than saying what was on my mind, regardless of the result, regardless of whether or not it actually changed anything. Good job, Mell.
君と何でも言い合えるような対等な家族になりたいって思っているんだよ。それだとダメなのかな、ネリー。そういう選択はないのかな。一緒に支え合って生きていくことはできないのかな。僕にはやっぱり君の気持ちを受け入れることはできない。でも君を突き放すこともできない。
There's a better way to say it.
どちらも選べないのは変わっていない。でも家族として君の気持ちに向き合う覚悟は持つつもりだよ。君の感情を決して気持ち悪いなんて言ったりしない。でも君が僕に恋愛感情を抱いているように、僕が君を家族として大切に思っていることを理解してほしい。
Can you imagine if they'd been able to have this conversation back then?
僕の気持ちも理解してほしい。僕は君と世界で唯一の兄弟として同じ目線で立っていきたいんだ。これからの困難も兄弟として二人で乗り越えていきたい。それじゃあダメなのかな。君を失いたくはないんだよ。勝手なことばかり言ってごめん。君の気持ちは受け取れないって言いながら そばにいてくれなんて、やっぱり都合が良すぎるよな。
At least he's acknowledging it.
そうね。とっても都合が良すぎるわ、お兄様。でもね、ネリーは、そう言ってもらえて、
ネリー、
家族として必要だって、そう言ってもらえたのも、それに、ネリーの恋が叶わなくても、気持ちを知ってもらえた上で一緒にいられるのは、なんだか救われた気持ち。
I think she can be forgiven for having those feelings. You just can't, like, it's beyond just like a whole, like, it's just not allowed. Like, it's like, it's not the same thing as like having like homosexual feelings. Like, I think this is a conversation I wish I'd had, because I ran away from, like Mell did, because I had somebody confess to me feelings of attraction, but he was a guy, and I've never felt attraction for guys. Like, it just never have. But I was young, I was scared, I didn't know what to do, and I ran, and I think I hurt him really badly for it. I regret that to this day. I wish I could have said this, like, look, I never can see you like that. It's just not in me. But I do think you're a good person, and I hope that we can be friends. If that's not possible, that's fine, but I can't also pretend to be something I'm not, and I know you can't either. I wish I'd had the guts and the know-how to say that. I wish I'd been able to say that, because I think that there is a hope there, and I think Nellie will find a way to move forward eventually. Maybe not ever 100%, but I think she will.
不思議ね。こんなにスッキリした気持ちになるなんて。もちろん悲しい気持ちもあるけど、それよりも知ってもらえたことが、こんな風に受け止めてもらえるなんて思ってなかった。きっと何もかも壊れちゃうんだろうって思ってた。そうなるのがむしろ自然なような気がして。変ね。メルに気持ちを伝えたのは初めてのはずなのに。なんだかね、ようやくちゃんと向き合えたような気がするの。今までずっと失敗ばかりしていたような気がするの。
Yeah.
そうだね、ネリー。僕もそんな気がするよ。
ネリーはお兄様をメルをきちんと受け止めるわ。王子様も素敵なお兄様もどっちも押し付けないわ。あなたの弱いところもひっくるめてそばにいて妹として支えるわ。
僕も至らないところばかりだけど、君の兄として君を支えるよ。
きっとできるはずだわ。ネリーもきちんとあなたのことを兄として見られるように。時間がかかるかもしれないけど、きっと大丈夫だと思うわ。だから、家を出ていくなんて言わないで、ちゃんと家族になりましょう。
I mean, he has to go to college eventually, but maybe he can at least, like, take his time with it.
うん。君のお母さん、いや、僕のお母さんともちゃんと向き合うよ。父さんにも話をしようと思う。なんか気が抜けて膝が抜けそうだよ。大げさかもしれないけど、本当に度胸が必要だったんだ。
メルよりもネリーの方がずっと度胸が必要だったと思うわ。
Fair? I think that's true.
そりゃそうだね。ところでさ、そろそろ部屋に戻らない？勢い余って外に出ちゃったけど、ほら、ネリーはそんな格好のままだし。
やだ、全然意識してなかった。誰にも見られてないわよね。
見られてはないと思いたいけど、たくさん騒いじゃったし、ご近所さんにからかわれるかも。
Oh no! What did they say? What did they heard?
聞こえてないことを祈ろうか。
Yeah. That could be a little rough to explain to people. Fortunately, no one had overheard our conversation, but rumors of the scene we had made that night spread throughout the neighborhood almost immediately. Fetch. People took the intensity of our clash as a sign of how close we were, which was far preferable to them knowing what we were fighting about. Yeah, it's certainly a worthwhile price to pay for not losing Nelly forever. A little humiliation would at least fade with time. Nelly and I started the following day, the last day of our parents' vacation together, cooking, cleaning, and watching TV. It was a lot like our first day together here. And when our parents returned, they were visibly surprised at how close we appeared to be. Though Mom was most taken aback at the fact that Nelly had actually done chores. Of course, she still acted as though Nelly were her only child, and I just tagged along when she remarried Dad. It was enough to make me question if I really was her biological son. As much as yesterday's conversation had helped me to have a more positive outlook, obviously it wasn't going to magically fix all our family problems. It was slightly discouraging to be treated as a second-class citizen, but knowing I at least held Nelly on my side, I was able to feel like I actually belonged somewhere for once. So I wanted to return the favor by being genuine with her and moving past the empty kindness I'd shown before. My goal was to stop running from every little bump in the road, which I hope would stop my problem from pulling up in something insurmountable. We could work through things together now, the two of us, so we wouldn't make mistakes we'd regret ever again, so I wouldn't have to lose her again. Good.
これでお土産は渡し終えたかしら。
大丈夫だよ。こっちもこっちで楽しくやれていたからさ。
そう？でも次の旅行は家族みんなで行きましょうね。あなたたちの希望に応えるわ。
そうだな。それじゃあ、パリに行ってみたいかな。もう一度、ネリーとね。
Yeah. And thus began a new chapter in our lives. I haven't had any more strange dreams, and I was never able to remember who I'd made that vow to. Although my gut told me that not remembering is for the best. The nagging feelings in the back of my mind cleared up entirely. Nelly had apparently been experiencing the same inexplicable sensation. And like magic, hers vanished too as soon as she had faced up to her problems with me. Maybe there is something more between us after all. Something in the distant past. Something significant enough that it etched itself into our souls, if souls even exist. Though it's not like we have any way of knowing. And honestly, looking forward is much more important than looking back. We've taken the first step toward becoming close siblings, but still have plenty of work to keep it that way. After this, the new chapter in our lives is still just that, a chapter, and the next one could be easily turned down a dark path if we aren't careful. And at least on that note, I feel like I'm speaking from experience, though of what, I'll never know. Another day, another wide smile on her face. She's strong-willed, a little spoiled, and has an insatiable appetite for attention, and seems just a little more grown-up than before. She's my one and only sister, Nelly, and we're standing now shoulder to shoulder, brother and sister, facing toward the future. God, I butchered that one. Reincarnation, chains. That was very pretty. But I'm interested to see where this one's gonna go. Early June. But that's where we're going to end for tonight. Thank you guys so much for being here today. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I guess tonight's not right. Like, this will be publishing likely in the morning, so we'll be ending here for today. Thank you so much. Wow. I found that satisfying. I was really worried it was going to be it got really sketchy there, and I also was worried it was going to end really uneventfully, but I'm really glad that Mell kind of rose up to the occasion and did what he did. And I'm glad that Nelly was able to start, that sounds like, moving forward after those feelings. So I'm really happy about that. I'm curious to see what happens next. Are they going to become a much bigger part of the story up till now, or are they kind of ready to be on their own? Because it kind of was implying that their story and their happy ever after ending kind of was over now, and that they were at peace, and so maybe they won't be tied in fate with the others anymore. But yeah, well, I guess we'll have to find out next time. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you so much to the patrons who continue to make this content more possible for me to make. It's been wonderful to receive your support, and it helps me do things like get the fantastic art that we have at the end of these series, like the custom work that's House of Fata Morgana themed. There's other artworks that we've been able to work with collaborating with artists actually in this community. It's been wonderful. I also appreciate it because it helps give me a sense of stability and a sense of purpose that goes beyond just making content I find fun. It helps me know that there's a curated audience that I'm like working with to try and make good content, and I'm grateful to have each and every one of you along for the ride, whether you're just a viewer or whether you're a Patreon backer. So thank you a million times. Thank you. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. I hope you're having a fantastic start to your week, and that we'll continue to have some wonderful moments together. So until next video watching me, I'll see you next. I'll see you there.